The Atlas twists all fates. Be gone from here.
Ah, it's through agony.
Did House Kayakson send you? No. Make your choice. Be try thee, fool! Let fury take you! Fine, just take it.
Pain is purpose.
Hey there, Exiles. How's it going? Been a while. I had to take a little mental break, but here we are, back, and with one of the probably strongest mapping builds I've ever played. So this is a Kinetic Blast Elementalist. We are leveraging Golem stacking with the Dark Monarch, the Grace of the Goddess to multiply our spells, and then we use a Rallying Cry Mercenary to triple or quintuple our flat fizz damage. So the basic concept of this build is you use KB, you use Nimbus for coverage, and then you rely on Elementalist to give you basically all of your scaling, and then you add flat from the Mercenary. So the Grace of the Goddess has a decent amount of base physical damage, but we're adding something like a third or half of this flat to ours, and I'm not even fully crafted on all the Warcry buff effect. So this adds an insane amount of flat damage to our attacks, which then gets scaled by all of the adds extra, fully converted to elemental, and then buffed by all of the insane golem stuff. We are of course using Whispers to solve our mana problems and give us a big chunk of ES. Svalin is our primary defense. We are block based. Sorry, this is going to be a very expensive build right off the bat. I'm just gonna say that now. Svalin, Headhunter, all the megalos you need, so you're looking at least several hundred divines invested. But we're pretty late in the season. This is a late game build, and I wanted to sink some money into it. So this character is primarily designed for mapping. I've been doing breaches, collecting breach rings, as you can see. Not the highest rate of return, but you know, every now and then you'll get like a big 15-20 div grasping mail, so that's always fun. We have 12 golems with Dark Monarch, and then the tree. Actually, I'll go into the tree in a minute, but we are using all of the different golems. They're giving us a ton of damage, a ton of speed, a ton of defense, and then my personal favorite is the Summon Stone Golem of Safeguarding. So this golem's effect is you take X% of melee damage from the golem's life before yours, and with all the scaling I have, it takes 101% of melee hits. So I'm essentially immune to melee hits. I have pretty high block, but then if something does get through and it gets through my layers of mitigation, my golem will eat all of that damage for me. And since we have 12 max, I think I'm running 4 of these stone golems. So even if the first one gets one shot, I got 3 more behind that to take successive hits. So overall, very defensive, very safe, very strong for just kind of speed maps, but it is also T17 viable. We are a KB build, so single target isn't exceptional, but if you rack up enough Headhunter buffs and just run to the boss, you tend to delete them no problem. So let's take a look at the tree. This is a pretty standard megalo cluster stacking. So we have 3 large jewels with Primordial Bond, and then 6 megalos with Primordial Bond. These are very expensive. I mean, if you go for just single mod megalos, then on the grand scheme of things, it's not the most efficient, but arguably still worth it. But if you can get either 2 or 3 good nodes, block would be ideal, but blocked ones are very expensive. You can just go for things for like generic damage. Blessed Rebirth is okay, but you know. This one's nice. Self-control makes it easy to fit discipline. It's just basic damage, FNES, etc. So shop around for these. Your biggest priorities, of course, Primordial Bond, but any good second or third jewel is also usable. So we're taking all the big wand nodes. Penetration is important because we are not using a Doriani merc. We are leveraging Trinity, global penetration, and also the inversion mastery here. So Rune Graft with Fortress gives us a big chunk of ES. And then I am using a Supreme Ostentation Elegant Hubris here, primarily because I had tattooed a lot of my passives before. I think you eventually do want to switch all of these over to Energy Shield, but I just haven't quite gotten to that point yet, and I've been pretty comfortable with 6k ES. But with these Elegant Hubrises, you want to look for stuff like crit multi, spell damage is okay, but not the best. But block is really going to be one of the main things to look for. This is a triple multi one that I was able to find, but there's a bunch of different places you could get these. You could get it here, you could even go here, path out this way instead. So there's a bunch of different ways you can leverage these, but really the most important thing you want to get is your block chance as high as possible, since we have Fallen, and that will give you the most defense. Let's see, so gear-wise, the wand and the shield are pretty straightforward, so is the helmet and amulet. I'm just using this anoint so I can get brutal execution here. Nimbus, stock standard, doubles your coverage, doubles your damage. So you want a rare ES body armor. Explode is nice. Attacks is really what you want. You want explode and attack, crit, and then any other mods you can get are pretty nice. There's a fairly involved crafting process you can use that involves recombinating and orbs, like the new orbs and all that. But I'm just a big fan of using Woke Orb, slamming two items together and getting lucky. So I slammed together Taken as Fire with the Explode and just happened to hit T1 ES prefix, so that was really lucky. Then I locked prefixes, reforged crit twice. On the second time I hit T1 crit and then also recover ES with open suffix. So can't really argue with that. Slap some res on it, called it a day. This is, there's a couple options here. The Soul Eater ring is a very popular choice, but I'm a little bit resistance starved. I might have to recraft some of my items here, so I couldn't really fit the Soul Eater ring without my reses being uncapped. And I just feel like since this gives me frenzies are also good, but you ramp up so hard with Headhunter, and as you can see from the footage, you're not really lacking for attack speed. And I basically played 1 to 99 with the Soul Eater ring, so I'm not too stressed about not using it now. Gloves, you want to get all your conversion here. I tried to fracture the temple mod, but I missed and I hit ES, so not the best, but I was able to semi-salvage these. I will need to use some beast locks to finish the suffixes, because if I can get 2 good high-res suffixes here, I could swap out this ring for Soul Eater. But yeah, you want to get conversion and then rage on hit. Then these boots are, I just like Tailwind and I like Ailment Effect. You could just go for a more straightforward pair. You could get triple res suffix, and that would free up a lot of things. But Tailwind's nice. Tailwind's fun. Elusive is a great additional layer of avoidance because it's 30 to 15% just avoid all damage. Then you stack that with your block. Makes you pretty hard to hit. The Ailment Effect is good because we are scaling primarily Shaper of Storms for damage. And unfortunately we had to give up static blows here, so we lost a chunk of shock effect, and this helps make up for that. Flask wise, Dying Sun, AoE, projectiles OP. Cinder Swallow, recover ES very strong, take additional damage, and then Malediction. And then Roomies, of course, because we are not fully block capped. Rarity because I like money, and then movement speed for movement speed. Let's see, so that's the big. Maybe you don't really need Peacock, but it's nice. Let's see here, let's jump into Path of Building. So I'm not exactly 100% on the configs here. I did 400 to 600 flat fizz. I didn't do the exact math, but this is a close enough approximation for what it'll give me. So we can see we are 5082 block. That's not ideal. If we use roomies, gets us to 6387. So that helps. But overall, our fizz hit looks pretty low, but again, remember, any melee hit that gets through our block, through our avoid, through all of our mitigation will be 100% absorbed by our stone golems, and our stone golems have like, or he's got like 20,000 health, and I've got 4 of them, so fizz hit is definitely better than it looks. So let's see here. Not crit capped, but with Headhunter up, that tends to cap itself out. Overall, definitely one of the more high budget, but very fun, very fast, very safe kind of builds. And what's really kind of cool about this is the Primordial Bond like archetype can almost be played with any skill. So with just a few passive points, you could drop these attack stuff and go BV, or you could go. You basically play any spell just because all your damage is generic. Like for example, yeah, look at that. You're getting almost 1,000 increased damage just from having your golems out. It's insane. You can just play pretty much anything. KB is great because it's just got such great coverage. You click once, then it hits the whole screen. I did really enjoy my Stormcall build, but just unfortunately the lag that the skill causes is just not that much fun to play with, and it's kind of a visual cluster. Now, I realize this is somewhat of a visual cluster build itself, so didn't really set myself much there, but the clear is great, feels really good, and we're leveraging a bunch of strong items here. So overall, would highly recommend. This is very high budget, but we're late in the league, so if this doesn't work now, then maybe you can do it next season. But I guess I could talk about breaches because you make a lot of money just blasting maps. You get a bunch of XP, you get pretty consistent drops with rings, and then you can go for the altars and all that stuff. So this really is the kind of build where you can start low and then build yourself up. I've been modeling this after Crouching Tuna's build, and he has 3 times the investment that I do. This is none of my gear is elevated. This could have 300 more ES. This could have a whole bunch more ES2. This is a pretty low roll wand, or mid roll, I guess, on the as extra, that sort of stuff. So there's a lot further you can go, but the nature of the build really lets you farm and get those upgrades that you need. So let me see, do we have enough for a Grasping Male Gamba? I think we do. We'll just do a quick Grasping Male Gamba here, give you guys an idea of what it's like. I will usually just blast maps, and then once I fill up this tab with rings, I'll go vendor them out. Alright, let's see what we get. Oof, brick. Alright, well, that's how it goes. Where was I putting these? Okay. So, yeah, overall, really fun build. Highly recommend. Drop any questions or comments you have. Happy to talk to people about it, how to push it, how to upgrade. Oh, shit, I guess I should talk about the Mercenary. So, you want a Swiftblade with Rallying Cry and Incite. So, with Incite, It's like I don't really need this ring because this guy will give me frenzy charges and he's got pretty good uptime for it. But I don't think this really works to you, but it's beneficial if it does. But the main thing you want here is Rallying Cry. So nearby allies will gain a buff based on the user's weapon. So this is just a very basic, unique axe. Bought it off the shelf. One of my remaining projects for this build is to craft a rare axe that has much higher top end. But then you want to get stuff like Warcry AoE, so you'll always basically be in range of the guy when he does it. You want Warcry buff effect, and then one thing that's nice about this merc that I have is he uses Flicker Strike. So he will always flicker to the biggest targets, and then he'll drop brittle ground under them. So that helps make up that crit difference that I had below cap. Works out really well. It's just a skill effect duration belt because that does scale the effect of the Rallying Cry buff. And then I'm using these gloves so he can get As the Thunder. A higher budget option would be to use Strangle Grasp and just load it up there, but this works for now. And we have some damage range on our abilities, so I was just like, what the heck, we'll throw in Perquels. There's, this isn't the best, but it's something. Recoup and defense, a whole bunch of regen, and then just a fat armor chest. So this guy's really great, a little bit more clear oriented. I think in theory you could use a Doriani merc with Wrath because you'll be adding flat elemental damage rather than flat fizz, so you're not quite getting the full damage scaling efficiency. But like I could change this gold conversion on my gloves, and then that would actually make me 100% fizz converted to lightning, so 60 on the gloves and then 40 on mastery. So if you're maybe a little bit more concerned about single target, going the Doriani option will probably net you a little bit more damage. But overall, for mapping, I prefer this guy. Let's see, and then I guess like final points, especially for like budget options, you don't need Explode Chest. You can absolutely use Oriath's End. You can even just use a non-influenced body armor. Those are a lot easier to craft. You can get like 1000 ES with good res, and you wouldn't even notice that big of a difference. But yeah, I mean, if you're looking for a build that can map really hard, do almost all mods, super fast, super safe, I highly recommend this one. You'll have to dig in your pockets for it, but this is a game where we grind for money, and yeah, so stay tuned. I'm going to have a few more videos coming out about my challenge hunting character. I'm almost done here. This was the one I wanted to get to 100 and do some speed mapping stuff, but I've got a few other things to fill out, so stay tuned for that. But thanks for watching, thanks for the likes, subscribes, and all that. I love making videos, I love PoE, and yeah, I'll see everybody next time.